Hello, my name is Dylan Young, and today I will be continuing my series on Moosend, Sitecore's recent acquisition. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe so you'll be notified of my upcoming videos that I will be releasing. So today's video is going to focus on how to upload or use an Excel spreadsheet to add members to your mailing lists. So to start, we're just going to log in. And then once we're logged in, we're going to see the dashboard page. Obviously, if you haven't sent your first campaign yet, you're not going to see the same as this, or well, you will see the same as this. And if you have already sent campaigns, you're actually going to see a dashboard page here instead. What I want to do is we're actually going to go on over to the mailing list section, which is here on the left hand side, and then we're going to click on a existing mailing list. So if you want to import your own list of users from Excel, you're going to have an existing mailing list in place to do that. So today I'm going to use the example demo list, which I've used in previous videos. And then once I've clicked on that, then I have the ability to take on batch actions, which one of those batch actions is to use Excel. They also allow CSV, which is a similar functionality. All right, to get started, we're going to go ahead and click on batch actions from the mailing lists sub navigation. So there's a couple of different options here. We're not going to talk about we're not going to talk about the last four here. We'll come back and do future videos on those topics. But we'll be talking about the import members into the list. So I'll click that, and there's actually a lot of different options here. Today we're just covering the Excel file. Obviously, a CSV or a text file is very similar to an Excel file, but Excel file is obviously a little bit different because of the way it's structured. So I'll go ahead and select Excel file, and then all we have to do is upload a Excel spreadsheet that contains columns. Actually, before we go into that, I'm going to open up that Excel spreadsheet. So I have one called Import Moosend, and actually I made a mistake when I was creating this. It should not have a row that highlights what fields they are. So all you need is a row that represents your email, and I don't even think you need to necessarily have this in the first row, but it's helpful. And then if you want to import other details about that user, if you have if you watched my previous video on custom fields, if you have some custom fields for this user, you can then specify those values in additional columns for this user. But you don't have to necessarily fill in all the fields. So for example, the first one actually has all three filled out. It has an email, it has a name, and it has a phone number. The second one has an email, a name, and no phone number. And then the third actually only has an email and not a name or a phone number. So basically any combination. I will say from my previous example, I said you can remove the titles in the first column. When I did this before, I had those. It said it was going to import those, but if it can't find a valid email, then it won't import that. So if you do have titles here, it won't be a big deal because it just won't import that. So I'll save that, and then I'll go back and I will find that and select that. I believe that's under Documents. And then there is a second checkbox here, or second field, called a checkbox that basically says, do you have verification, or do you have consent to add these users to this mailing list? This is something that you definitely, obviously, if you've built your own list and you've done it by verification of that user has opted into a list, then you're probably fine in this instance. But if you've maybe paid somebody to get a bunch of email contacts, then you don't want to necessarily select this option because you don't really have their consent to do this. Whereas in this case, I do have their consent, so I'll just select yes. So the next column is a data mapping. So the first one is email, and it's basically detected that I'm curious I haven't done any tests to see if I put email in the second column, would it just detect it in that case. But the map to, basically this is the first column that we were seeing in Excel. This is the second column. This is the third column. So in the second column, we can map what this field is supposed to go to. Now you can create a new custom field if you want to map this value to a different option in this case. In this case, actually, we're just mapping this to a name. So we can select name. There's also another option to just ignore it. So if you don't know where this, like, let's say you don't have a custom field in, or you don't want to go to that point, or you just wanted to ignore that value for some reason, then you can just select and ignore it. And then, there's other options here as well. So we'll just select mobile because that's mobile. And you can see it's kind of paying attention to the fact that some of these are empty. So I'll click yes, and then I will just say no thank you. Obviously, if you want to get notified of it, you can select these other options when that import option is done. Obviously, I'm only importing 3 emails, so this is a fairly quick process. You can take a look at the import process if you want, but since this was such a small list, it didn't take long to add all the emails into it. So we can actually see, if you want the results of that import, you can actually go back to the page where you could select the type of import, and there's actually this view reports button, and you can select that. You can see that this is the one I just completed at 7:25, and you can see it ignored 1 emails. Didn't really say. It's not really giving us much indication of why it ignored those emails, but it imported or added 2 of those. There might be other reasons why it ignored that. It's imported these contacts. I'm not sure why it hasn't updated the names yet, or the number. But that basically concludes today's video. Is just showing the batch action, how you can take emails maybe from an external system that you're using, maybe a different system that's not Moosend, maybe you're using EXM, or maybe you're using some other collection of users that you've pulled, put them into a CSV or Excel spreadsheet, and now you're importing these into your mailing list for your future campaigns that you're going to run from Moosend. So that completes today's session. Please, like I said, subscribe if you have the opportunity to get the latest content, and good luck.